Alright, hey everybody, it's Mr. Patrick. This video that you're watching here is going to be about how to do checkpoint 3. It's called Selecting Sources and Annotated Bibliography. So at this point you should be done with checkpoint 2. Of course we have green lights here to indicate that I told you to keep going. And at home you're working on collecting data. So what this checkpoint is going to be about is finding some background information on our topic, whether it's food or water use, whether you're talking about driving, and just kind of seeing what the general community knows about this. So this is going to require that we do a little research. For this checkpoint we're going to be searching for sources, whether that's scientific literature or news articles about our topic, and then we're going to try and determine if they fit into our lab report that we're going to be writing. So the goal is to get some background information and just kind of seeing what people know about this. What does it mean to save water? What does it mean to actually eat less beef? So right now, any good research paper has sources behind it, and the goal of this checkpoint is to find our sources and create a bibliography which lists the sources and with annotations to kind of sum up what we're looking for. So the first thing we'll do is we'll click here on checkpoint 3 and just kind of see what the final product we'll be submitting. So this is selecting resources and annotated bibliography. So there's three things here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to read our directions. So we're going to type our annotated bibliography in the works cited space below. Use the annotated bibliography checklist below to ensure that the annotated bibliography is complete. And complete the self-assessment for selecting relevant sources. And this is the cognitive skill that we're working on here, guys. Can we pick sources that matter to our topic? All right, so let's start with step number 1 and take a look. All right, here's our works cited. Obviously, just kind of a bunch of blank space. So we're going to need to find something to put in there. And I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Here's our checklist that it's talking about. Make sure that our sources are in alphabetical order. Do these MLA format. We have 3 complete annotations, which means we're going to find 3 sources. And then here's some specific criteria for each annotation that we create. All right, and it explains what important information is found in the source, how credible the source is. We'll have some small groups on what does it mean for a source to be credible. And it explains the biases in the source, if any. And here, why is it relevant to the paper? All right. Here's our cognitive skills rubric. Remember, guys, all these checkpoints will have a rubric for the skill that you're working on, and it's going to show you what we're expecting. All right. So if we want to get a 7, our highest possible score for this cognitive skill, which is selecting relevant sources, we're going to want to find sources that are nuanced, which means they contain detail. They're comprehensive, so they have lots of information. They have credible information, I mean it's good information. And it's relevant to the question you're studying. So if you're studying beef consumption, well, your source needs to be about beef. All right, not chicken or water use or anything like that. And then, where applicable, sources vary in perspective and or format. So are they different? Is it a research article? Is it a news source? Is it from different points of view? And then that you also can, really to get a 7, what we're pushing for here is that you can note any gaps or limitations in the sources. So what's wrong with it? We're kind of looking at the big picture stuff here. All right, so that's our rubric. That's what we're going for. All right, so let's take a look at our, this is the final product, of course, that we're going to submit, but we got a lot of work to do before we get there. So let's go ahead and go back to Summit Learning. And so now I'm back on my project page, okay? What I want us to look at, first things first, is let's just go through the resources, okay? All right, so we have a couple different resources that pop up. We have credible versus non-credible sources, and these links, guys, if you click on them, they should take you to a page. All right, I'm not going to go through this right now, but because we're going to be doing this in small groups, but this is a resource, okay? Is it credible? How do we know? This is going to help us with that, all right? So if that's something, if credible is something you're having trouble with, we're going to use this resource here. But let's go back to this page and check out what else we have. MLA citation, okay? There are a lot of links in here, but these links will help you create a citation. You guys have done this in English class before. You might have done it in history if you wrote a research paper in there. All right, but a lot of these these MLA citations, they look a little confusing, but really if we break it down, it's going to give us a nice little format. So just say if you're citing a website, you're going to put author, last name, first name. All right, what's the article title? What's the website name? This will be how we cite our information that we find. Okay. We have annotated works cited support. Let's take a look at this. Okay, just another checklist that we're going to use. And guys, I'll be giving a lot of this to you as small groups, but this is something that's going to help us just kind of break down and make sure that we're kind of checking all the boxes. All right, so you'll see that in a small group likely. Okay, El Nino model bibliography. Oh, here's a great one. Guys, this is the final kind of product that we're looking for. All right, so if you want an example, this is what you need to look at. And remember, we found this under, we went to annotated works cited resources. We went down to the model bibliography, and this popped up. All right, so if we look here, we have the MLA citation. Okay, title El Nino from National Geographic. Here's the date that it was article was created, and there's a link to it. All right, so let's read through this and see what it says. This encyclopedic entry from National Geographic provides extensive information about El Nino, what it is, how it works, and a history of our understanding of El Nino and its effects on various places on the planet. I use this source to enhance my background knowledge of El Nino, to provide information about the history of El Nino, particularly the 1998 El Nino event. National Geographic is an internationally recognized organization with both scientific and journalistic credibility, and is well known for its expertise in these areas of study. The nature of this topic is not very controversial, and the information provided by National Geographic is in agreement with the other sources I encountered in my research, so I am not worried about potential biases at this time. All right, so there's a couple parts to this that we want to look for. Up here at the top, I would say right about these first couple sentences. So this kind of tells us what's in the source. This is from Nat Geo. It provides information. It talks about the 1998 event. How did they use the source? I use this source to enhance my background knowledge. Okay, so kind of what is the source? The next step here, this sentence right here, what is National Geographic? Say I don't know. Now I know what National Geographic is, but imagine you sourced your information from maybe a more obscure or just a journal that we haven't heard of. So they're telling us a little bit about the source. National Geographic is an internationally recognized organization. All right, so right there, that tells me that it's pretty credible. A lot of people appreciate the work they do. All right, and then down here at the bottom, we're kind of analyzing, is the source biased or is it controversial? Because that might make us question the credibility. All right, so 3 parts to that. And now, of course, this person and their model, they have another entry about El Nino, similar format. Okay, so you guys will be making 3 of these. All right, so how do we do that, though? Let's go take a look. What I want us to work on, the biggest thing that we're going to work on is this annotated bibliography scaffold. Okay, so this is the activity under checkpoint 3. And what this is going to do is actually help us create our annotations bit by bit. Okay, first thing you got to do, guys, if you can read, you can succeed. All right, we have to read the directions. Okay, here's a checklist for us to make sure that we're checking off all of our, again, this is the same thing you saw in the some of the other resources. Are we ticking all these boxes? Okay, let's go down here. We're not going to skip over into this. We're going to read it. All right, purple boxes are directions. Cool, we don't write in the purple boxes. White boxes are for student work. Easy peasy, right? Here's what we need in each box. We're going to have bold type, content that is required for the annotation. Okay? In italics, we're going to have sentence starters. You can definitely write your own sentence, bulleted list, ideas about what type of information to use for the full content requirement. And then here we're going to make sure we always include specific details rather than general statements. All right? So in bold, in these boxes, I would always write what is actually going to go in your annotation. What's the information you found? What's the source? Okay? This is what it's going to ask you. So let's look down here at number 1. In bold, explain what information is important in each source. Okay, so in every box, we're going to, in bold, explain what information is important and found in the source. All right? Italics are a little sentence starter. So this source provides information about, or this source says, okay, if we're having trouble getting us started. All right. And then here's the bulleted list that it was talking about. Things you could do to make sure that you include all the relevant information. Can you identify the topic, the event, person, issue, or problem? Identify specific key data. Explain a viewpoint. So these are things we would look for in the article. All right. Now, this is going to be, this first box is going to be just general information, right? Second box, this is where we talk about credible. Remember the last person in that El Nino thing we said that this Nat Geo is an internationally recognized journal, all right? So everything they do is really important. And then we'll do a small group again on credible versus non-credible resources, all right? Then the next box, we're going to look for biases. So say if you're reading an article about the damage that beef farming does to the environment, but the article's coming from a big cattle ranch. Well, there might be some bias in that because they're interested in selling as much beef as possible, so they're going to try and limit what the impact that we think beef has on the environment. So we're going to look for biases in all of our work. All right, and there's other examples of that we'll tackle as well. But just think about kind of the motivation. If the author stands to gain money from something, or if there's some kind of reason that they might not be telling the whole story. All right, and then the last part here, we want to explain why each source is relevant to the paper. Okay, so this source is relevant to my paper because, or I will use it in my paper too. Okay, why are we getting it? You need to tell me why you, when you searched it, why did you say, oh, I think this is helpful. All right, and then the last thing we'll do is we'll put it all together, and in the last box we'll make our complete annotation. Okay, so real quick before we finish off, let's take a look here. This is the scaffold for the thing that the video or the annotation we just went over about El Nino. Okay, so here's the citation in MLA format, and what information is here. Here's that first part that I showed you guys. The encyclopedic entry from Nat Geo provides information about El Nino, what it is, how it works. All right, there's that first piece. What's the source saying? How credible? All right, here's where they say Nat Geo is an internationally recognized organization with both scientific and journalistic credibility. Okay, so they're telling you who they are and why they matter. Biases, or remember they said there wasn't really any bias because Nat Geo agrees with all the other sources. All right, so this was that third piece that we saw. They don't think that there's any reason Nat Geo has any kind of hidden agenda, should we say, okay? And then the last is why it's relevant to the paper. So they said it's relevant because they want to increase their background knowledge of El Nino, or maybe if you're studying water usage, you said I wanted to understand how water is used in the country, or where water comes from that's treated and ends up in my shower, something like that. All right, and then what they did was they just kind of pieced it all together, just like a puzzle. 1, 2, 3. They just pasted it in here, strung it together, and that's a complete annotation. Okay. So we're going to go through and use this to do 3 of our annotations, and once you've completed this, 1 for each box, checkpoint 3 is done. Okay. Watch right here, it says all 5. That's a typo. It should say all 3, so just ignore that. Okay. Alright guys, I hope that was helpful. This will be the first video for this checkpoint. If you need help on finding how to actually find a source, I'm going to create another video that's kind of just goes into how we can search for different sources online. All right.